Hello. How is everyone? Sorry, I was a couple minutes late opening the Zoom.
Hello. Just getting my computer situated myself.
Okay, well, that makes me feel better. Now I need to find my water bottle and I'll be back. My dogs are amped.
Good. I
They're
was
cute.
thinking of the coffee mug that was in the other room that I wanted to grab, but I didn't want to get up, so I'll do the same
No,
thing.
yeah, everyone get up. Everyone, we're all, oh, my water bottle is behind my laptop. I borrowed. Lindsay, do we know you? Have you been here many times before?
No, this is my first time actually
Okay,
making it. So I've watched several of
yay.
them, like in replay, but I haven't made it into any live. So
Okay, well, welcome.
thank you.
You don't fit. Your spine doesn't go that way. Um, yeah, yeah, good to have you. Can you want to tell us a little bit about where you are, who you've got in your crew?
Sure. Yeah. I'm in New Hampshire.
Oh,
And Scout is my nose dog. So I sent in a video of her. She's a little English Cocker Spaniel. She's 5.5 months old and absolutely bananas. Um, just like all
yeah.
over the place.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Uh-huh.
and then here, this is Gimli.
Oh my
Oh,
It's
gosh.
our
sure.
Cavalier Spaniel. Um, my daughter's diabetic alert dog. And then I also have a 16-year-old poodle. Um,
Wow.
so that's our household. Um, Scout's been introduced to Kong and then also to Placenta for HR.
Oh, cool.
Um, so we're on a search and rescue team, but we'd like to transition over in.
And I seem to have frozen, but I can still see the comments at least.
We can still hear you.
Okay, there we go. I'm back. Um, I love when my internet goes out when I'm in Corvallis, Oregon. There's no reason for the internet to be spotty. There we go. Can you hear me now? Okay.
Oh, but now I can if you're saying anything.
Okay. I can hear you now, Anne, and see you. I can see Lindsay. Lindsay's video is moving, so okay. We'll just keep my camera off for a sec and see if that helps. My goodness. Okay. Okay.
And your dog looks like just a long-legged version of Scout.
Yeah, she
They could
she
be
looks
twins
and acts
otherwise.
like a long-legged spaniel, except she get flushes, but other than that, you wouldn't know.
Yeah, and Scout looks a lot like a short-legged setter.
Do you
She
do,
had
do either of you know how closely related those breeds are? Like I know they've got
that's
similar
a good
purposes,
question.
but are they actually
I don't
related?
know, but they sure come from the same area of the world.
Yeah,
That would be interesting.
it would make sense. I mean,
Yeah.
they look so similar too, and they've got similar purposes, similar parts of the world. It does kind of make sense that yeah, you've kind of got some height differentiation that then
Yeah.
eventually led to new breeds.
That might be something interesting to learn about. I actually know like surprisingly little about the setter breed other than this girl.
I have a
Does
really
she set?
hard.
Does she do the paw up? Does she set?
She does it kind of like it depends when she f smells the bird and figures out where it is, if her leg is up or not. So she freezes whatever position it happens to be. And then her tail does like you can tell like the difference in her tail. Yeah, like she's like interested, then like zoop,
That's so cool.
it goes
That's
straight
so
up.
cool.
So she
Yeah, I
had,
wonder, there's probably some really good books on this sort of thing. I feel like I haven't found one that I really enjoy because they all kind of either come off as like pretentious or just like old school pseudoscience. But I'm sure there are some really good ones, and even the ones that have like maybe tones that I don't
mm,
vibe with, where I would
mhm.
learn a lot.
Yeah,
There's
just
a
kind of
podcast
like,
called
yeah.
Hunting Dog Confidential, which is really good. He goes
Yeah.
into the history of it all. Yeah, I just don't
Hmm.
remember what he said about the spaniels and the setters.
Yeah.
So maybe
Yeah,
look
and I
into
know
that
like I
too.
have a couple tidbits that I know about like the history of border collies and that breed development, but I don't know nearly enough. Um,
Hmm.
well, I know enough, I guess, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We
you can
live with
always
them,
know
but it
more.
would be interesting to know more. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's dive into it. We've got quite a few people on today's call. We had a nice tiny group this morning. Um, so yeah, and Becca was in the morning call, so we don't have to go through her stuff a second time.
Oh, okay.
Um, oops, okay, so let's see. So we've got Anne, Lindsay, Taylor is not here, so we'll do her video last. And Alice, do you have video for us today?
No, I don't have a video today.
Okay, great. Well, that's a nice manageable amount of video to deal with then. So I think we'll do Anne first. Normally I go based on who submitted their video first, but Lindsay, that way you can kind of see how we do it with Anne before we dump you into the deep
Sounds
end
good.
on your first one.
Yeah, 'cause mine
Um,
was just 2 minutes ago.
no, it's 37 minutes ago.
Oh, okay, there we go. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
37.
Yeah. I was still at a coffee shop trying to write a paper 37 minutes ago, so
Oh,
we're
wow.
all operating on the same wavelength. Okay. Oh, I'm glad that you caught that it was today. I also kind of thought it was tomorrow, but
I don't know why I had it in my head.
I don't know. I
Um,
mean, we've been doing a lot of Thursdays lately.
yeah, thankfully my phone like beeped at me and I was like, oh, that's now. And I had a video from before.
Oh,
So
good. Yeah.
yeah, this is
Glad.
from a week or so ago.
Okay. So it looks like your goals were to work in a new place with search focus versus everything else focus. You wanted to put the hides out in the grass and not near objects, because you realized over the summer that you always put hides under or near things to kind of hide them. And she was starting to target objects instead of the area to start with. Really, really common, and sometimes helpful because some animals
Yeah.
do poop or hide or whatever in those 3D objects, but nice to have some variety. It really depends on what you're trying to work on. Um, like obviously when bats get thwacked out of the sky by a wind turbine, they're not preferentially on 3D objects, but like wolves tends to poop on 3D objects. They actually really like pooping on logs and trees, like
Hmm.
tiny trees. Um, so depends on what you're looking for, but nice to, yeah, good to have that balance. So you wanted to approach the open area in a search grid with some back and forth swats, but with some flexibility to follow her when she's on odor. And you wanted to be able to do multiple hides and release her quickly to the next one so that indicating does not end the sniffy game. Very wise, particularly for Miss Zoo. And then you've got a bonus, which is that she gave her down indication, which you've been working on separately in smaller spaces up until this point. So for now, you're using a clicker instead of a verbal yes, because that's a mark and release marker. And yes means to stay in place, which led to some confusion on how long she needed to stay there after you marked. Okay. Does anyone have any initial questions on the marker question to clear that up before we dive into the video? Or does everyone feel good on like discussions of like markers and like location, time, reward specific markers? Cool. We've got a lot of variability within our group as far as how comfortable people are with like the capital D dog nerd stuff. So I just want to make sure people are caught
Yeah.
up. And actually, just in case someone is watching the recording and is lost, Anne, do you want to tell us a little bit more about this distinction between the clicker and yes, and like why you've got those separated and how you're able to use them differently?
Yeah, so when I say yes, it's saying, what you did was what I wanted, but please continue to do it
Okay.
until I release you. And her release word is break.
Hmm.
And usually I'll use that for like a place board or a mat or like a sitting position or something that's stationary and I want her to like hold that position. Like I'm telling her, yeah, getting on that place board was what I wanted, but please stay there. Don't like get off it as soon as you get on it.
Hmm.
And then the clicker uh is yes, that's what I want. You don't have to do it anymore. And
Hmm.
so I had been using initially, so with that, like if I were to click whatever she's doing, she can stop doing it, just get her
Yeah.
reward. Um, and initially I had been saying yes and then break for her indication. And I think the instruction I had been given was the clicker might be a little too precise, and I might wind up, like if she's wiggly, I might wind up clicking something that isn't actually what I want, which I think is valid, especially with how wiggly she is. So I had been doing the yes and then break, but she just uh seemed to be confused like with what I really wanted with that. And I don't
Yeah.
know that I have a perfect explanation for why that is, but it seemed to cause some confusion like when she could get up when I
Yeah.
was doing.
That makes
Um,
sense. Cool. Okay.
so only recently changed to the clicker, which means like you can get up, you did it. And
Yeah.
then I've been trying to wait on the duration of the clicker a little bit.
Excellent. I am so sorry. I have to get up and take care of the cat. He
Oh,
has, oh
Norbert.
my God. He's learned to try to dig his way out of the house and is like currently on his hind legs, stretched as high as he can, doing this. And he will just do this for a half hour if I don't ignore him, and it makes both the dogs very upset. So I'm gonna just go,
Go, go,
I'm
go.
reinforcing it by putting him on a leash and putting him outside and just being like, you don't have to do this for a half hour. We'll just put you out. Come here,
Oh,
sir. Because otherwise, Barley goes into cop mode and tries to stop him, and I am distracted, and it's a
yeah.
whole thing. All right, Niffler, you don't need to go out. Come on, scooch. Thank you. Goodbye.
So Lindsay, you were on the Northeast call for the Conservation Dog Alliance too, right?
Yes, yep.
Okay. Like I thought we had talked before. I was
Yeah.
trying to place where. So I'll brag on Zoo, who's sleeping here while
Awesome.
um, I'm staying at an Airbnb at a farmhouse for the week. And my plan tonight was to do a search to record for this meeting. But instead, what happened was a bat got into the house
Oh, wow.
Oh boy.
and, and flew, like dove down right by her nose. And she chased it out of the living room into the kitchen. And there's like a double door between the living room and the rest of the house. And I was able to recall her off a flying bat from the kitchen
Holy crap.
back to me. Now she's the first time I said come, she came halfway and started to turn back. And then I did the like panic come
Yeah.
and she got all the way back to me and we closed the doors and we had a party. Um, but that's my little brag on her. And that's is also why she's sleeping and why we didn't do anything else today.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Well done.
I was very happy. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And now I'm
But I
back.
was just chatting while you were up.
Thank you. Yeah, I was able to hear while I was just throwing the cat out. Um, okay. Can we see this?
Yes.
Okay, great. So here we go.
We did three. I just showed you two for time because the third one was kind of similar to the second one.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And that's my like ready to work kind of thing.
Mhm. God, she is so fast.
I can feel my shoulders just watching.
I was gonna say, actually, I think the biggest thing we're gonna talk about so far is seeing if we can do anything to protect your shoulders a little more with your line handling. Good girl. Oh my God, that was beautiful.
Good girl, Sue.
Yeah.
Good girl.
God, she's fast.
There it is.
We're just gonna watch this the like couple. I need to watch her in slow-mo because I can't.
Ew.
I can't. Playback speed. Half.
This will help the spaniel folks too.
Yeah. Yeah, I gotta get me ready for my spaniel in 5 years. Nice. Yeah, I don't know. Anne, do you have any sense of when she caught odor? Because the only I think it was like basically as she's walking over it right here.
I
But
think
do you
as she
think she
walked
had it
over it.
earlier? Go ahead.
Oh, no, I agree. I mean, I think maybe she had a little bit of a sense of it because she was continuing to search. The
Uh-huh.
second search, I don't think she had any idea there was odor for a while, and so she got a little birdie. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of thinking maybe there was like something was telling her there was something around that, but I don't think she caught it till she stepped over it.
Yeah, I think so too. Do you remember which way the wind is going here?
Oh,
Yeah, I can't quite see anything in the trees. But yeah,
I
it
don't.
doesn't seem like she's super directed, like sourcing until like basically this frame. And then
Mhm.
it's so fast. Then it's like bam. Um, who knows? Okay, we'll continue watching. I'm trying to get in the habit of watching these all the way through without too much
Found
commentary the
one.
first time.
Are you ready?
We could talk about line handling here
She's
too.
tangled.
Yeah.
So I'm also trying to release her quickly, and then I had like line and side, and yeah.
Yeah. That's the bird thought?
She got
That was a bird.
distracted.
Yeah. Bird thought. God, she almost literally looks like she's been sped up.
My niece maybe give some commentary on this too. She was filming this.
Job, girl.
Oh, goodness.
And Anne, are you working blind here, or do you know where the hides are?
I generally know. So
Yeah.
we just walked over one there that she
And
missed.
then there
My
should be
niece
Okay.
set
one
them out,
right
but
in
she
front of
told me like
us.
it's in that general area.
Gotcha.
Somewhere.
Kind of a facilitated blind.
Yeah.
She
Nice. Good
found
girl.
it! Yes!
Okay. Great. So, let's see. Need to keep that going. What initial thoughts and questions do people have before we dive into it with Anne?
Well, I think Zuzu looks so good now, and she's really come a long way. You've done a good job.
Thank you,
And
Alex.
yeah, I was really impressed with those downs. She found it. It was like she found it, boom. She didn't have any doubt what she was supposed to do. She just did
Hmm.
it. And
Hmm.
even with all those distractions and everything. So I think you've really come a long way there.
Yeah.
Thank
Especially,
you.
I mean, even compared to like last month, like it's kind of crazy, like how far you've come from like that session in the backyard to now
Mhm.
like a huge open environment, lots of visual stimuli, and like beautiful alerts. Like it's a huge jump.
Thank you.
Not in a like, oh gosh, you went too fast, but in a like, well done.
Like
Like,
something happened. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah, like all the foundations kind of came together.
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
So yeah, I think the biggest thing that I'm seeing that I think would be worth talking about here would be some line handling and like safety top discussions for you, just because she is big enough and
Hmm.
so fast that I don't want you to tear a rotator cuff. I know I handled a lab back when I was at Working Dogs for Conservation, where I was like pretty seriously considered concerned about shoulder injuries the whole time I
Yeah,
was working him, and we don't want that for you.
yeah.
Does anyone else have anything else they saw or think, or like, do you have any other questions you want to talk about before we dive into that?
Uh, that that might be great because well, another thing, and it's kind of hard to see from this video, is I was trying to do sort of a grid-ish
Yeah,
transect, and that just like went out the window at on the second one and the third one. So that might be hard to see from the video because the camera was moving, but that might relate to the line handling, because she was hitting the end of the line. It's a 12-foot line.
yeah.
Yeah, so line handling would be great. I don't have a great solution for that. My shoulders did hurt the next day.
Yeah,
I have a longer
yeah,
line, but then she just get more momentum. So,
yeah, yeah. So I think that that's one of the things we're going to talk about. We also, so I haven't drawn a picture for you all for so long. So I'm gonna pull out the whiteboard.
I
Um,
could use some line handling too. Scout is
okay,
looks exactly like that on a line. So
yeah, I
yeah.
could imagine a young spaniel would be too.
Let's see. Now, where did my whiteboard go? How do I do a whiteboard? Is this in docs?
Oh, hi,
No.
Taylor. Hi, Sonia.
Whiteboards. Great. New whiteboard. Uh, oh boy, there's a new whiteboard. Uh, great. Can everyone see this?
yep.
Great. So let's say that this is your surgery, and actually, just for realistic sake, we're gonna make it not square.
Okay.
Also, because I can't draw. But okay, so this is roughly what you want to search. And now let's say, so ideally, I think when you are practicing grid or transect searches, technically a grid is going both ways, right? A transect is just going one way.
Mhm.
Generally, for what we do, transects are fine, because we're not looking for like missing people where you really want to be like, well, Sonia is, but most of us aren't. Actually, Lindsay is. We're 50-50 on whether we're looking for people or not. But anyway,
I
generally
think
in
so.
conservation, we're doing transects. So let's say your wind is going this way, right? Um, so what we recommend doing if you're working on like a wind farm, and basically what you're trying to do is clear area, is you're going to start at the upwind side and you're going to go this way. Shoop. And then you're going to come down. Maybe you have to go back out this way just to like get that little bump. And then you're going to go back the other way. And so on. And basically, the reason that you would start at the bottom like this, or at the top like this, is that way you are effectively covering all of this area first and clearing that. So you're kind of reducing the area of focus. And then when you come down here, you're only really covering this area. And hypothetically, you shouldn't be getting pulled all the way up here on that second pass, right? Can I just take that? Okay, great. Take that arrow away. A lot of books that are more geared towards search and rescue will have you start the other way. And that, or I think also bomb dogs will tend to start the other way. And that's because if you're looking for like a missing person, your goal is to like find that person as soon as possible. So you'd rather, if you can hit odor here on your first pass from someone all the way up here, that's great. You're going to like go to that person and go find that person. We're generally trying to like more clear an area. And it's nice to get that kind of fine scale. The other, and again, if you're reading books that include bomb dogs, part of the reason you're doing that is that you would rather like catch the odor of the bomb when you're further away from it and not be like in a position where you've like you're clearing an area as you're walking over it. So this is one of the things that like just to keep in mind if you're reading books in particular or like watching cross-disciplinary webinars, learning from other people. A lot of other search dog disciplines will search the other direction, but generally in conservation, we will go this way. So all of this, again, is to say that that way, that should reduce and your need to let her go too far upwind. Because, again, so say you started down here and she starts going all the way up here, you wouldn't know there could be a target all the way up here. So then you're getting pulled all the way off your transect and you're like losing your place. And then you have to come back and start again, right? And that's also just really annoying. And it especially when the dogs are on a leash, it's really frustrating to work through. So does that make sense as far as like a search strategy? This is really helpful if you have good clean wind. So if you can, when you're starting to practice like transects, you may want to prioritize days where you have like a nice consistent breeze of some sort. Does that sound like something that's going to help as far as like thinking through your strategy, Anne, and like trying to keep you on your lines? Or how different is this from what you were planning?
I didn't have the wind direction front of mind enough for me to remember what it was. So
yeah,
if I was paying attention to it, it wasn't enough that, I remember like that was part of the strategies.
And also, I mean,
so I think I could try that and see like if especially on an open area, that was like a pretty simple, flat, open area.
Yeah.
And it was like kind of an easy breezy day, like not a stormy day.
Yeah.
That could be something I try and see, like, does that keep her tighter?
Yeah, and it might not necessarily keep her tighter, but it lets you know whether or not you want to be letting her go further and whether or not there's like motivation to continue following her, or like is she just ranging?
Okay. Yeah, like put on
like then when you're here, sorry, I should use a different color. We'll go back to red is us. When you're here, if she's pulling you up here, you've already covered this area. So there is like a chance that she missed it on the first pass, but you don't necessarily need to like you don't have to be running around as much with her because you've already covered that area. The other thing that you can do, just as like a search strategy thing in these sorts of situations is, so say you're in here, right? And she goes upwind and starts trying to source odor. When I am in a really flat featureless landscape, I will carry something with me that I can drop when I leave my transect. If it's
Mhm.
really windy, I'll use a pin flag and just plop it in the ground really quick. If it's not really windy, I will carry like a bandana or something that I can like tie, especially in like taller vegetation. I would like tie that to the vegetation or just drop it if it's really not windy and I'm not going to lose it.
Mhm.
So then I can like go up with the dog, see what we find, do what we need to do, and then I can come back to right where I was and continue that like nice systematic search.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, Particularly again important in like big open fields. Because if you're working on like a trail or a road system or something, like
Yeah.
you're gonna come back to the road, you know where the road is, hopefully. Um, that you look like you're thinking hard.
I am, but no,
Yeah,
that's helpful. I was
okay.
just thinking, because I was traveling at this time, my brain was going on a little side tangent. I don't have that like flat open area where I live at all, but it was a good place to practice that.
Yeah,
And so I was just kind of spinning on like, what place do I have that's sort of like that, so I could start in a simple area first,
yeah,
uh, to do that. So,
yeah.
a good
Abandoned
point.
lots,
But yeah.
soccer fields, those sorts of things can be nice. Alice, what are you drawing for us? Do we have any do you have follow-up questions? Or are you just making art?
Kayla, that was a really awesome explanation. Um, and it was interesting. So I was following along and I was like, oh, got out my phone and took a picture, even though I could
Oh,
watch
cool.
this later. But I was like, oh, maybe I should try coming, like in this direction in relation to the wind. And then when you brought up about the search and rescue, because we're pretty much always taught, if possible, to start downwind and,
Yeah,
move upwind. But I've seen it like, especially when I've watched people test like large area, their dog, because they follow their dog and their dog just goes all over the place. And then they're like
mhm.
checking their GPS and like, oh, there's a big hole over here. And then there's a big hole over here. And there's just like, it's just like a scribble mark in the end, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
And so I'm always torn with that. Like if I'm trying to do a grid, do I follow my dog or do I, you know,
right.
do I try to like make sure I cover the territory? Anyway, it was really
Yeah.
interesting.
Well, and especially like it's just it's
Mm.
really interesting to think about. And again, like Lindsay and Sonia, you know more about search and rescue than I do. Like the difference in mandates and the difference in goals. Like generally for search and rescue, you're looking for like one person or maybe a group, and hopefully that group has stuck together. So your hypothetically, your goal is to like detect their odor as early as possible and get to them as quickly as possible. And like you're not trying to find a large, like a lot of different missing people at the same time. Generally speaking, like disaster would be kind of different. I don't think either of you are doing that. And that's kind of different from what we're generally doing in conservation, where like we could in a search area of, I mean, I guess we don't have a scale on this, so we have no idea how big this area is.
What,
But
are
you
you
could
still
have a
talking to
target
me?
here and here and here, and maybe another one over here. And so you've got all of these like different converging odor plumes. And if you like if you start down in here again, you'll like go up to this one. And then when you go back down and the dog starts going back up, you're not sure whether they're trying to go to
Mhm.
this one or this
Mhm.
one or this one. Like it starts getting really confusing. And you're not as likely to run into that problem in search and rescue, I think. And in search and rescue, you're more likely to be in a situation where, let's pretend that this is the only target that exists now. Your odor plumes are so much larger that you would like this would be really advantageous in search and rescue to be like, oh, hot damn, we found him right away. This is fantastic. I guess with that placement, you would have found him in very quickly in either one. But you kind of see what I'm saying, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And again, if you're thinking bombs, like if for some reason this one is stinkier than this one, and then you're like going up. I don't know. You could like walk over them. I don't know. I shouldn't talk about bomb stuff because I don't know nearly as much. Okay, let's really quick get to
Oh,
some
Kayla,
leash handling
Can you
things.
hear me
Yes.
now?
Yes. Hello.
Okay, good. Because I was trying to find the mute and unmute button on my phone, and that's why the lines appeared because I didn't have any idea that
Oh,
when I was trying to make my phone do something that I was be drawing lines on the screen for you guys. So
It's okay.
just ignore
I
it.
appreciate the contribution.
But I'm still having trouble making my buttons appear. So if you want me to talk, I just have to
It'll
fumble
just take you
around
a
till the
sec.
button appears and then I can talk again. So I'm going to try to mute myself again.
Okay. Great. Well, gosh, we're going a little long on this one, but there's just a lot to talk about. We've
Thank
got
you,
time.
Kayla. That's really helpful. I'm going to give that a try next
Yeah.
time.
Okay, so now I'm gonna really quick unblur my background and we're gonna do a quick leash handling demo and see if this helps at all. Okay, so I think there's a chance that a longer line is gonna help you, Anne,
Okay.
with the caveat that like that does potentially mean more momentum and more speed, and that is a big downside. So like, do you have a longer line that you can try with, or would
Yeah.
you have to go out and purchase one? Okay.
No, I have a 30 foot and a 50 foot. That was a
Okay.
12.
Yeah, so this is my 30-foot. Lake it out really quick. When I am working with this, if I can, I have one that doesn't have anything on the end, so I can drop it as needed. That's just really nice for these long ones. So usually I will either kind of keep it in my hand. And I know at our retreat, Lauren was showing a really nice way to flake it through like this.
Yeah.
I'm not very good at that, so I don't. But that's the smart way to do it. And then I try to hold it really close to your center of gravity. And then you can kind of pay it out from here. And when you know that she's getting close to the end, then I will actually like hold it in even closer to my center of gravity and then be able to like sit back into it. And it's kind of like if you were trying to give a correction, honestly. But the big thing is that protects your shoulder because so if you're thinking about like even like this, right? Holding this is like not very heavy. Holding it out here, even for like a couple seconds, I'm like already feeling that in my elbow tendons, and like not too long, I'll be feeling it in my shoulder. Even bringing it into here is going to help protect a lot, and then bringing it in even closer is just that much better for your control and for your safety. So the big thing that I would be trying to do, and like you're struggling because you want to give her more, but as soon as you're out here, you're in a much riskier spot for your shoulders. So like trying to hold it here, if a longer leash helps you feel like you can do that without checking her too often, that might be the way to go. And then the nice thing again with a leash that like this that you could like easily just drop and let her drag is that if you're in a situation where it's like I really think she's got odor, or she's like, I don't want to be correcting her, I don't want to be stopping her, you can just drop it and let her drag it and then catch her again. You know, that's something you might want to work on with her because I don't know exactly where her reliability is at with that sort of thing yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when you get there, then that's an option. So again, yeah, like when I'm working with the dogs on log lines, I really try to avoid letting myself go into extension with my shoulders at all. And especially if you've got a dog who, like, there was a couple times she's coming back around you, and that is like that's even more dangerous. So like the riskiest place for your shoulder to get dislocated is either up like this, which hopefully we're never doing with our dogs. I don't know why that would happen, or back here. Like your shoulder joint is just like most vulnerable kind of back this way. And that's where you can get like kind of anterior shoulder injuries. So if you've got a dog who's trying to go back this way, like protect yourself. They're on a harness. Pull that leash in towards your belly button and like be ready to like flex your knees and like go into like athletic stance.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
yeah, like I'm only 30 and I've only been doing this for 5 years and I already feel like I have like chronic shoulder pain from handling these dogs. And she looks like a dog who's really gonna put your shoulders through the ringer.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah,
That's good.
um, like because realistically, you extending your arm out like this isn't actually giving her that much more leeway, and she's still hitting the end fast. So you might as
Yeah.
well like at least protect your shoulders.
Yeah. No, that's good. I'll give the
Um,
30 foot a try that way. And
yeah, and based on
I
her
can always check
speed,
up on it.
yeah, you can always choke up. And honestly, based on how fast she's getting on that 12 foot, I'm not entirely convinced she's going to get any faster on the 30 foot. I could be wrong. She might still have another gear that I haven't seen.
She might.
She might. But
No, but
yeah,
I think that's a good thing to try. I'm just joking
yeah,
around. Yeah, I think
yeah,
that'll be.
yeah. And again, just really like keeping in mind, like it's so tempting to want to give them more and want to like soften their landing. But like if you're
Mhm.
doing that at the risk of your own shoulders, elbows, etc., it's not worth it because they can't go out if you can't go out.
Yeah, and like you said, those few inches aren't gonna
Yeah,
affect the search.
yeah, yeah. So
No, that's helpful. I've got a couple things to try now.
yeah. Okay. So now, oh boy, yeah, poor time management today. Um, but really lovely. Okay, Lindsay. So you said we've got Scout. She's a 5.5-month-old, 8-month-old English Cocker. You're working on Kong. And you did the converging odor exercise. So what you liked about this is you had some nice, clear changes in behavior and bracketing and a good indication on the second find. You had a really quick recall and response to a too far cue. This was the first time she had a GPS collar on and it didn't seem to bother her. That's awesome, especially for a young, smallish dog. She wasn't always on task. When you first entered a search, she was just running to run and needed a cue to sit at the first one. So, okay, this is going to be a fun young dog search. 5.5 months olds are. I feel like that's when they like just start to like show a lot of promise. And like it's like starting to like come together. There's a lot more zigs and zags as they continue going from here, but I feel like 5.5 months is where I first started, like, and where we consistently within the group really start seeing the like shine come through.
She does love it for sure.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah, look at her eyes. All right. Here we go.
Search.
Oh yeah, we're zooming.
Yeah, so yeah, totally off task.
Oh,
Now
oh
we
my
know.
gosh. I'm so sorry. I'm gonna pause because I had one other thought for Anne that you reminded me of. And I would love to see you try a hide in an area like this where maybe you have 3 or 4 out, but the
Yeah.
first one is like she can smell it from your start line. Like it is like
Yeah.
just a couple meters away and right upwind, and then
Mhm.
be able to be ready to like have her down, mark rewards, send her off really, really fast
Mhm.
so that you can get this like engaged search and like collection right away.
Mhm.
So almost thinking like actually you do agility, so like thinking like collection versus extension drills. Like I
Yeah.
would love to see you guys working on some like collection scent work stuff as well.
Yeah.
While keeping it fun, like making
Yeah.
sure that you can then like give her the extension later,
Yeah.
but thinking through getting her some stuff where she's learning that like the second you say search, there could be something right there. And you can even do that by like starting her where you suspect she should be in odor at the moment you say search.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Even maybe 2 or 3 like that are all pretty close, and I could release her to run as her reward too.
hmm
Maybe.
yeah, play around with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I like
But
that.
I think that might help a little bit start teaching that concept of
Yeah.
collection and engagement right away. Scout doesn't need this quite yet, but watching how she started here reminded me.
Which is exactly how Zuzu would have done in that same spot.
Yeah, yeah.
And
And now
Nippler.
Scout has lost off leash privileges. We are no longer a puppy. We're now an adolescent.
Yep, yeah. Niffler lost off leash privileges from 5 to 9 months,
Yep.
and I think with our hunting dogs that might last longer. I've got the herding dog,
Well,
blessing.
that,
So it came
that's
back.
helpful for that too, because kind of really the reason I have her on the line is to have her be thinking sniffy thoughts and not birdie thoughts,
Yeah.
like to kind of refocus her. So that might help with that. So I can maybe wean off the
Yeah.
line.
Yeah. Yeah. And like for Scout at this point, like we're the big goal for Scout at this age is like having fun, like making sure that she loves it. Cause like you can fix most skills once she's 2, 3, 4, 5 years old, 6, 7, 11 years old. Um, uh, but yeah, so like at this point, I'm not super worried about like putting the hammer down on like hard skills yet. Not that you're trying to, and not that we don't want to be improving, but yeah, sometimes we see similar behavior in different dogs, and there may be reasons that we pick on it with one dog and not the other. Okay, back to watching Scout.
Scout here! Scout!
She was like halfway to Vermont.
Yeah, that's why we have the GPS collars.
Yes, but she came back really fast, so I was
Good
quite pleased.
girl. Yeah.
And immediately was in her.
Yeah, good girl. I love when they're moving so fast that they have to skid out.
Sit! Yes! Good girl!
Nice job, girly.
Good girl!
Nice. Really lovely toy play. And it looks like you've got two balls going. That was a pink one
Yes,
and a yellow one.
Good girl!
She does have a favorite
Sit.
ball, so I have to switch them or she'll take off with the favorite ball.
Gotcha. Nice. Little food trade at the end.
Search. Cooper! Yes! Good
Nice
job!
job, girly.
Good girl! Good girl!
Is the pink one the preferred one?
Well, they're both, it's that squishy, it's like just a ball I picked up at the grocery store, but
Good girl.
Oh, funny.
that's
Yeah.
his favorite.
I like what they like. Yeah, okay. Any preliminary thoughts, observations, compliments for Lindsay and Scout?
Oh my God, she's so cute. And she seems really, really into it, like super impressive, really impressive.
She does love it, yes. She loves the hunt.
Yeah, from one bird dog owner to another, like being in that woods environment and having her so happy to search, like that's awesome. Like that it's fun and that's what she wants to do there. And I did love the two fars. But
Yeah.
yeah.
That was
yeah.
the first time I tried it too far. But I thought it was better than doing another recall, so
Yeah.
and it worked.
I love the two fars, even if they're very hard to define and really hard to explain to like big training brained people how you teach them. At least how I've taught them in the past. But
That was beautiful.
yeah, really, really lovely. Trying to see. So yeah, she wasn't always on task for center to search. She was just running to run. Have you tried doing any like exercise, like letting her run before, and doing like some other either like free games or like other things in the environment before you tell her to search?
So we had been walking down the trail and practicing
Okay.
recall and then an emergency stop. So she'd
Uh-huh.
been allowed to just run and then I'd say stop and then she'd
Mhm.
turn around and sit. So I think maybe she thought we were still doing that.
Yeah.
And was like, okay, I just run straight ahead.
Yeah.
I was thinking maybe I need to do some kind of like a getting ready to work ritual, like where they go between your legs and do some
Yeah.
touch or something like that, just to re-engage her, because I think she wasn't with me. She was just ready to run.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think it's always kind of a double-edged sword to like do the like, okay, do we want to let them run for a little while and then try to bring them back into search? Because then they like for some dogs in some situations, like letting off a little bit of that steam seems to help. And then for other dogs, then their brain is kind of in that mode and you have to like try to reel them back in, and it doesn't seem helpful. At least not within the same session. I think, yeah, Anne probably has some thoughts on the ready to work like start rituals that she's done with Zoo. The other thing you could try if you're not planning on hiking her in all of the same equipment, um, making the equipment part of that search picture as well. So like my dogs only wear their like they've got official like canine conservationists harnesses and their GPS and like they basically only wear their GPS collars when we're searching at this point because I no longer live in Montana. When I lived in Montana, they did wear their GPS collars when we were hiking as well. Um, and that can help a little bit as well, kind of be that like physical cue of like, oh right, we're searching now because we only wear this harness when we're searching. So yeah, Anne, what are you currently doing with Zoo for your start line stuff? Do you have any thoughts or things you want to share there?
Yeah, I am having just one harness that I just use for searching and not for anything else. So I'll just carry it with me in like a little backpack if I'm going like in somewhere and then let her run and then put it on. And usually so I guess if you looked up like pattern games, if there's one that she really likes to do like at home, then you could take that pattern game and bring it as part of your start line. And the one I've been doing is so with Zuzu, she like barely can do any behaviors, but she can chase cheese. So I get big pieces of cheese, and if I get her attention, she looks at me, I toss the cheese and she can chase it and eat it. And if she comes back to me with attention, I can toss it another direction, and like that's fun for her. I tried to do like hand touches and she's like, I can't think about hand touches right now. So the cheese is like something she could and the she doesn't want to just eat it, but if I throw it, that's fun. So for her, something that engages her, she has to do something like chase it and come back to me. Just something that she can show me that she can give me some attention. Um, but any pattern game that like works for her, that's for Scout that she likes and that you could do in the house and then you could do in a distracting environment if she's able to perform it. Then when she can do that, then I know she has enough focus on me and she's got enough dust shaken out that we could do a search. And I'll put her harness on and we'll do a search. In the video I had there, I actually did just take her out of the car. So we're starting to progress a little bit that when I have the harness on and we're walking up a certain way, she knows like, oh, we're going to search. And if I think like in that one, she just gave me attention. I gave her a treat. And then she looked back over the field and was sniffing like she was ready to search. And so I didn't insist on like doing this game when she's like showing me like, oh, I'm going to search now. But that's been like a year of maybe doing that. And if I still had to like throw cheese for her, I still would. It just
Yeah.
like so yeah, just and I think it's just finding like the pattern one that's fun for them that they can do like in the woods, and it just like has them focus on you and know your or exist, and then that you're gonna go search after that.
Yeah, and we talked about one other thing to just think about, particularly if you've got like a more confined search area since you've lost some off-leash privileges.
Right.
God. We talk all the time about needing like an adolescent survival group, like support group within like a subgroup within the Patreon. I think you might be the only one at this exact stage right now, but maybe not. Anyway, one of the things that we talked about again with kind of search strategy for Skid and Sanyu in this morning's call was this idea of like not continuing to move forward if the dog hasn't kind of cleared an area. And if you've got a dog who still has you on their radar, that's helpful. You might not be there with her right now, or she might not be there with you right now. Because I have a feeling, Lindsay and Anne, both of you, if you like let your dog off leash in the woods and then just stood still, like they might not ever really like come back and search right near you at this stage. Maybe Zoo would be getting there soonish. Um, yeah. But in a smaller area, like in something a little bit more confined and or with the dog on a line, what you can actually choose to do is kind of enforce a more systematic and slower search using your body and or using the line to kind of not move forward until the dog has fully searched an area. So I will even practice this like in my house. So this like dark cavern behind me is our kitchen. And I will often put the dogs in the laundry room, which is this door behind me, while I set a hide. And if I will then open that door, and if the dogs zoom out into this half of the house like the other way and completely skip the kitchen, I won't leave the laundry room door until they come back and check, unless they alert. Then I do have to like, which does happen sometimes, because then I have to like go and be like, okay, well, you were technically right this time. So that can be something that you can kind of work on to, again, think about this, like this concept of like collecting them in, and you can do that even in like small indoor spaces. It's just, you can do this partially by like setting hides in ways that encourage them and reward them for, even if they have to like go and do that initial zoom, because that's fine. Coming back to you. And one of the things that we can see as well, so like that initial zoom is not necessarily something that we want to kill, because and Sonia, this actually ties into a little bit of what you were talking about with like some handlers, like they go out and the dog does a huge loop and then they realize there are holes. That's actually not a terrible strategy, depending on how difficult your terrain is and how hard it is to go back and hit an area a second time. It's a strategy, like they call it a hasty search. So a lot of times I will like let my dog go, give them, you know, a lap or two around the search area, or a lap or two within voice and sight control if it's a much bigger search area. And then if they don't find anything, then I will call them back in and like start that more systematic search from there. And that can be a really effective way to search, because if in that initial like zoom they hit odor, that's fantastic, and you don't necessarily want to like squash that in any way. And you know, again, then the downside is if you do that on a super large scale and you've got like streams and rocks and logs and like all sorts of stuff you have to traverse, and then you realize you've got like big holes and you need to like backtrack, not necessarily the most effective way to do it. So a lot of times what we will do in like the big areas we've got in Alaska, if we're doing like a muskeg search, is we will walk like one wolf trail through the middle of the muskeg, let the dog freely search as much as the dog wants, and then just take a different trail back through the muskeg to get back to where we started. And we don't necessarily expect the dog to cover everything. And part of that is because, you know, the wolves are obviously using the wolf trails. And if we're finding like enough scat, we don't need to find every single one. So we don't need to go back and like grid everything out perfectly, as long as the dog is finding enough. But we do just kind of like let the dog freely search and then gradually move through the area to help them clear it a little bit more systematically. Does that make sense? Or is that muddy in the waters? Okay. But yeah, again, for our field dogs, thinking through like, yeah, if you're starting in this store, maybe setting some hides around the fridge, around like the edge of this futon, and then not moving forward. And then they will learn that they need to like that they need to be turning their nose on and getting to work at step one. And then two, that you can kind of use your body language to continue teaching them this. I know Yana, who no longer comes to Patreon very often, she's kind of graduated to being fully operational, and really awesome. She did some really cool exercises where she actually was intentionally placing her targets right in front of her feet to help get the dog again to like collect and come in and search right in front of her. Um, so you can think about all of those sorts of things as well. We can talk about that drill a little bit more maybe in the future because I think I've given you enough ideas for now. Okay, Sonia, do you have video? Okay, great. So then we will go ahead and we will do Taylor's video. Taylor was in here briefly, but then dropped out. So
She
I
had to
know
go to a
she's,
concert.
oh, well,
That's what she said in the chat.
didn't invite us.
I do have a quick question
Yes.
though. It has to do with a pulling harness. I'm kind of interested in trying some like Canicross or something like that. I ordered a harness from Nonstop, and it was really tight on his neck. And I can try. I emailed them and they gave me some other options. But I just wondered if you guys have any particular ones that you guys like.
I do. Let me go grab it. Well, everyone else can pop in while I grab mine.
You guys done any of that?
I haven't. But one of the ladies on my team runs Dog Gear Review. So it's a website. And she does like pretty involved reviews of all kinds of different like harnesses, and so she does have a lot of the Nonstop stuff and the like ski journeying and stuff like that. Harnesses.
Oh, cool. I recently, like I used to run him when he was searching just with a GPS collar and nothing else. And Paul Bunker said you should use a harness or something to give clarity that this is actually a search as opposed to a hike, because I use the GPS collar when we're hiking too. And it fits him well, but I can tell he doesn't like it. Like every time I go to put it on, he like turns his head and he's very excited to search, but he's just like, oh, do you have to put that thing on me? And once it's on, it seems to be fine. But yeah, have you guys experienced that? Yes.
Niffler has had like one of Niffler's like most annoying problems has been getting him to put his harness on. And getting him to like let me put his harness on. And it is fine with these two harnesses, but not with his like work harness.
Interesting. So. And I don't think it's a fit issue at all, because it seems to fit him perfectly. But I think you can tell he's always like, oh, please, no. Like he just moves his head all around to avoid it.
So this is like, you're wanting like Joran style, right?
Well, I don't know what I want to do. I think he loves to run. I'm not a runner. So I would never really looked into it. And I'm like, I'm still listening. I don't know that I can ever trust him to pull me on a bike. And I'm not a great cross-country skier. But then I was reading, you can even use it just like when you're hiking up hills or whatever, just for, extra strength training for the dog. So I was like, okay, that's cool. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to play around with it, but I really don't know anything about it.
Okay. So I've got three here that we can talk about. Oh, go ahead, Alex.
Well, let me just ask, Sonia, have you tried counter conditioning by just whenever he sniffs, starting by having him sniff it and reward him for that with like a food, and then have it put his head through something and reward him for that, and just go through the whole process to where he gets better feelings about it, because it's
no, I didn't.
Associated.
I didn't. I've done that with other things, but with this, I was like, here, you're putting this on now every time.
Yeah.
It goes on. Stand still. Let me slide it over your head.
I had to do that with
that.
Emmett. Yeah, I did it with Emmett because he was totally fearful. When I tried to touch him with it or put anything over his head, he would scream. I mean, like, you're gonna kill me. Well, I don't know what his background is, so he might have had bad experiences, but he tends to be a big wuss. And anyway, I did that. I just started out with like an embroidery hoop that was big enough to put his head through, and I would just hold it up, and if he put his nose through, I'd feed him, and then he put his head through and I'd feed him.
That's a great idea.
I'll do that. It took a while, but now he loves his harness.
Great.
Yeah,
Thank
we
you.
had to do
That's a
similarly
fantastic
with
idea.
Niffler. And one of the things I was like picking a friend's brain about it with Niffler, because I was like, he's fine with both of these harnesses, and he's fine with his collar, but he's not fine with this harness. And what we think the problem is for Niffler, is not so much the like tightness of the head loop, although that's part of it, but it is that sound too close to his face. So like one of the small things
Sophie
that I
had
changed
that.
that's made a big difference is
Yeah.
like holding it like this and then like sliding it in so that it's silent. I would guess that's
Interesting.
not Drifter's thing. He's not a border collie.
I think it's the
But okay.
sliding over his head because it's very snug to slide over
Yeah.
as opposed to like his, like a walking harness or whatever.
Yeah.
It's made by Nonstop, so it's kind of got a smaller neck thing, so it gives a lot of shoulder movement.
Yeah.
So
The 3 pulling harnesses I have, or the 2.5 that I have, all are a little bit more flexible in the neck while still being like approved for pulling. So this is like just a rough wear one. This is one of Niffler's main harnesses, and I'm trying to use this one so it's a flag line, I think.
okay.
I like it because it's got a handle that hypothetically I can lift him with,
Mhm.
which is really helpful for field work, just to be able to like give a little bit of a hoist. This is one of the ones that we struggle with, but it's a little better than like we're working with this one a lot right now because ultimately the harness I want him to wear in Alaska is tighter around the head and neck than this one. So I figure if I can get him really good with this one, then we'll move up to that one.
But that's not a pulling harness, right?
It's not a pulling harness, but it does he can pull on it.
Okay.
But it's and I like it because it's a little bit less kind of goofy if he's not pulling versus both of these are drawing harnesses and their fit is kind of weird if there's not tension on the line. Like they are made for there to be backward tension on the line. So like this is my favorite and the one that I think Drifter might like. So this is from Tanzilla Harness Supply in the Yukon.
How do you
And
spell
this is
that? TAN?
Zilla.
Okay. I just want to make sure I understood it was Tanzilla with the T. Okay.
Yes. So this is a classic sled dog harness. So you can see it's got a pretty big head hole here, and then it just goes in between the legs and it's padded here. Niffler loves this one, but again, it's like really made for there to be tension in the back, and then the loop is really far back, so it helps kind of shift more weight and more of the pulling into their hind legs instead of just in the front. So this is like our main pulling harness that he gets to use, and then this like X back helps again kind of distribute the weight further down instead of having it all be in like the shoulders and chest. So
Okay.
I really like this one. If you're actually going to have him pull, this is like the one that I would use. The other one that I have that is fine. This is another one from Roughwear, and this is the Omni drawer setup. The nice thing about this one is it comes with, if you buy the whole kit, it comes with the a waist, like a padded waist leash that's like really fat. So it distributes the dog's pulling across your lower back better and is more comfortable for you, which is huge.
Okay.
And it comes with the bungee line. So it's convenient to just like buy the whole package and it all plays nice. And the harness for you, like your waist leash also has like a quick release, like an emergency release that's really nice. If you're like cross country skiing and eat some snow, you can let the dog go with like a single quick like drop. And this one also doesn't have any snaps, but it does have kind of a narrower head. And again, it's got kind of the same thing of like the fit is kind of funny if they're not pulling on it, because again, you can see it's like way back here. But I think this one is a little bit better if the dog isn't pulling than the other one I showed.
Awesome. Okay, thank you. Yeah, the one it may just be, that they're both kind of tight going over his head and, pull his ears. And I think he's just like, don't do that. But once I got same thing with the pulling harness and got it on him and had somebody across the room calling him, he forgot about the harness and he was definitely like pulling. So, okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I mean,
And
again,
then,
Niffler has kind of the same deal with it going over his head. And the other thing I do is I will hold it out and I like hold it up and I let him like he'll circle me a couple times still and like kind of wag at me and like think about it. And I just let him come forward and then I will kind of I put my hand through the harness for like a chin rest, let him put his chin in, and then I pull it over him from there. Um,
oh,
so
you
like
guys are
I
so
try to
much
give him some
kinder.
time. Well, because I don't worry, I tried tackling him um for a while and it just got worse. Weirdly, he decided it was scarier.
Um,
And actually, Rachel was the one who fixed it last summer while she had him on the wind farm, and because she's a better, kinder, more patient trainer than I am, and she fixed it, and now it is my job to not break it.
and Lindsay, what did you say the name of the website was? It was Dog Gear.
Dog gear review.
Okay, thank you. I'll check it out. Okay, thank you guys.
Okay, great. Now let's look at Taylor. So Canna is 2 and 9 months old, so 2.5, 3 years old. She's working on Birch. They are working on converging odor with the stove running. So the plan was to give the cue at the laundry room door and try to keep her in the living room area and not in the kitchen dining room. She was planning on calling the surgeon 5 minutes if Canna can't find the hide and was going to accept a look stare at me alert. Wow, that's so awesome. Taylor, when you're watching this later, I love the description of what your plan is, your criteria, the like kill criteria as well for like when you're going to call it. This is really awesome. I know this is something that you've been working really hard on is to like be clearer about this, and this looks great. Good things. Canna almost immediately found the first hide. Uh, if Taylor had waited, she probably would have gotten an alert. And then she searched for the full 4.5 minutes and worked really hard. Canna was climbing on some stuff and over obstacles, did really well. So some questions. Canna has found a hide close to the stove when the stove was running, so she didn't think it would be over facing her. However, if I'm wondering if I should have called it sooner, taken a break, removed a box that maybe was in the way, and then run her again. Should I reward the big search after and re-queue? Did verbally encourage her a little bit. So we'll see. We'll watch it back and see what we think of that. It's shared for you. Not coming through. Ooh, I love that. This is like high production value.
Searching. Yes, go. Go
Right,
further.
quick. Oh, I see. This is a wood stove, not a cooking stove.
There we go. Now we're in our odor. Hot. Good job.
Good save.
Come
Yeah.
on. You're gonna stay in that area so you stop going back. Mm-mm.
Hey, come here. Come here, stroke girl.
Look. Search, find another. Look down. Search. Search. Search.
There we go. I saw it about a second before she did. Okay. So I'm gonna just open the questions again. She's found a hide that close to the stove with it running before, so I didn't think I'd be over facing her. I'm not 100% sure what she means by over facing. Does anyone have like a good idea or strong feeling about what that means? I have a couple guesses, but
Thought she, I don't know, but I thought she was saying she thought it would be okay, like that she wouldn't
I
be
think so too.
stove.
Yeah, so she's wondering if she should have called it sooner, taken a break, removed the archery box hide, and reran her. I guess before we dive right into her questions, does anyone have anything that they saw or that they're thinking about right away?
What was her odor again?
Birch on Q-tips.
I just wondered if it would be really, because birch is pretty strong in a really small space, that it looks complicated.
Yeah, I think so, especially with like a stove running. Anne, did you have something? I saw you unmuted.
Oh yeah, I did like that she had the kill switch. I don't remember what she called it, the plan to how to ban.
Yeah.
And she did that. Because sometimes you have a plan too, and then you don't do it. So that like she that
Yeah.
was great because it's hard to be like, okay, we need to stop this. And I thought she was still searching. Like I guess she cut out Canna circling for a while, but
Yeah.
it's like she did what she was able to pull her out of that. So I think that's great. And she was like sniffing and trying. So maybe it was like you're saying, like maybe something that was a little complicated, maybe just a little easy recovery search after something like that
Yeah.
to build confidence. But I was happy she like didn't give up. She was like still sniffing. She just was having trouble with it, it seemed like.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. It's like nice tenacity. And yeah,
Yeah.
and it's hard to say we don't exactly where so you can actually see the Q-tip now that we know where it is right in here. Where that odor was actually going. This is like a situation in which it would be really fun to have one of those little like smoke pens and like see, because it doesn't look like you would think that if anything, it's like rising from there and like she should have hit it, but she didn't. So that could also be a like situation in which like that you could add that to your kill criteria of like not just like time, but also like if you're looking at your hide and you're like, I would expect the odor to be presenting somewhere above this hide near this box and potentially moving towards the heat source. If they're clearly like in that area and not hitting odor or not able to resolve it, that could be another like secondary thing to add to your kill criteria of like, okay, great. It's not presenting the way I thought it was. I don't know what's happening, but it's not working. Because it's not that Canna's off task here. It's that the odor, like whether she's like in odor here but can't resolve it, or the odor just isn't presenting. Kind of hard to say because it's not a big enough area that we're getting to see what she looks like as a clear in odor versus out of odor distinction. I think there probably is just kind of odor all up in here. Because again, it's birch. And it, like if there's a wood stove going, it's warm in there. So there's odor probably everywhere. I think what I would have liked to see Taylor try is probably somewhere around here, right around at the point that all of this stuff started happening. I would have liked to see maybe not necessarily fully ending the search and restarting, But like, I like the idea of, yeah, picking up that first one. If she keeps going back for the refind, just pick it up. Two, changing where you're standing in the room. And seeing if by rotating your shoulders, by rotating your feet, by moving yourself to a different part of the room, you're helping open up more of the search environment to her. But again, I mean, like looking at where her face is right now, it does just seem like that odor is like not presenting in the way that we think it should be, because with something like birch, like actually let's just kind of keep watching this. Like it's really odd to me given where she was able to hit and given what her target odor is, that she doesn't see. I mean, she did a little quick cast up there, but it really seems like the odor is presenting more over to the other side. I mean, we've got some working along the edges in here. A nice little change of behavior here. So I do think she is working edges off the tops of these boxes. But she's able to get really close to it and like not quite get onto it. So yeah, I think overall the big thing is like maybe before presenting and telling her to check in a specific spot, trying to move your feet around and trying to stand in different places, and see what that does for her.
And with that, in such a confined space and such a volatile odor, do you run the chance of kind of sucking the odor with you and creating more, I don't know, turbulence or something, like by moving in a room, like in a.
Yeah, potentially. God,
I don't know.
Yeah. Again, I mean, I think right around here is when like, and we're getting a little stress yawn now. Like it seems like Canna got more stressed as the presentations got more direct. So that's something else to note. Like this might be the point at which like when her nose passes right over it and there's nothing, I think that's telling us that maybe there's just too much odor everywhere and that concentration is not clear.
Right. I think she did great.
Yeah.
You know, if it's what we suspect it is, that there's just like
Yeah.
a lot of odor everywhere.
Yeah. Because yeah, she's not quite sure where it is until like there.
Yeah.
So it's so close. So yeah, I think overall, like, yeah, both Ken and Taylor did a good job with this one, and I'm really pleased, particularly with Taylor's like plan and sticking to the plan. And the other thing maybe we would add to the plan is like two more contingencies. One of like, if the dog is putting their face where we think odor should be and not clearly resolving it, that's at least a like, we need to change something about how we are presenting the area to the dog. And if we do that a couple more times and the odor is still not presenting in the way that we think it would, it's not the dog's fault and like might be worth calling it at that point. Because it's not that Canna's not working. It's not that she's off task. It's not that she's not in the right area. It's that this odor is doing something really not necessarily really unexpected, but like it's not. If you like drew a picture of this search area, we would all draw a cloud of odor somewhere that Canna's head is getting, and Canna is not getting it. And that's not a skill issue on Canna's part. We know she can do this. So it's something about how the odor is presenting. And like I think this is just like something that we all need to like remind ourselves all the time, that like it is not your fault and it is not your dog's fault if the odor is presenting in a weird way. And it's okay to just be like, okay, we learned something about odor dynamics. Good dog, let's go. And I do I think Taylor's last question, and we should wrap up here because we have been a little long today, is like, should I reward the big search effort and re-queue? I would re-queue. I think again, we're one of the things that we are seeing here is that when Taylor steps in and gives more direction, that is actually when Canna starts getting stressed. So I think it might be better to call it, give some verbal praise, maybe take her out and set something elsewhere. I wouldn't necessarily like work harder to try to get her to find this one. But what was the other half of that question? Should I reward the big search effort? I'm reluctant to like try to reward effort. I think that can get really, really fuzzy. I would praise and just be like, yeah, good job. Like, and like make them feel good, but not necessarily do something that's going to give them that huge dopamine dump, and then set something else up or go do something else. Because there's always, when you're ending searches or trying to like reward effort or like a lot of these other like nebulous concepts, it's so easy to slide into kind of training the dog to like circle and whine and look up and like they don't know what's happened, like look stuck. And then if you're consistently calling it and rewarding them for that, they could start doing that when resolution would have been possible. And or you can get into a situation where they're starting to learn that like, okay, if I like circle a bunch of times and cast my head up and like look lost, then I'm going to be offered an easier problem next. And like I don't think doing this a couple times is going to be a problem. I think it is worth doing a couple times, but then what your job is to figure out what the gap is between where they're being successful and where they're failing. And how do you make steps in between that? Because what you really don't want to do is get in the habit of consistently offering something that's so hard that you're interrupting and trying to figure out how to reward effort, and then offering something easier, because that's when you start getting into the risk of training them to like get like I don't think they're faking it necessarily. Like I think the language around this starts getting really icky about like the dog's trying to trick us, or like the dogs are like being lazy or whatever. Like I don't think that's what's happening, but we are training them that an easier option is available and can be requested.
Did
So,
she happen to say how long the odor had been out?
I don't think she did.
I'm just curious.
She did not. Yeah, and the longer that this had been out in this environment, the harder it would be, probably.
Anyway, I think in one of the summer calls, it might have been Rachel was telling me about like an end like routine, like we do a start routine, or like that's something that's different, and it's not the reward so much, but it's just like a little routine that they know, okay, they're done, and like to
Yeah.
keep it happy. Like, would you think something like that might be helpful for her? Like if she's struggling, just have like
Yeah, I
a
think so.
way to end
Yeah.
that might be pleasant, but not necessarily a reward. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I like that idea. I can't remember what Rachel said she did.
I think if Taylor's listening, I think it was the July call actually, and she went into a lot of detail. So maybe we could go back to that, like listen to that one again.
Wow,
Yeah.
what a memory.
Yeah.
What a memory.
I
I
was doing so.
I have to say, I've never seen Zuzu still, ever.
We had a big day today. It was a big day. She went
She
to a
looks
new
like she's
place.
seeing ghosts.
She did canine fitness. She's chased a bat.
She's
Then she
staring at the
a whole
ceiling
house
behind
for
you.
that. And now she's looking for the bat to come back.
Oh,
Well, it could. It might. Yeah, so I think, yeah, lots of good thoughts here. And again, I think like the biggest thing to underline as far as the like what to do when you're in the situation is like it's okay to like need to figure out some way to bail and some way to make your dog feel happy. Bailing is probably the better option than like stepping in too much. And then the important thing is thinking about what you're doing next and like how you're going to bridge the gap between what the dog can do and what the dog just was unable to do, so that you don't get into the like constant like ratcheting up too fast, too hard, and then having to dial back. You don't want to be in a situation where you're needing to dial back more than like 1 in 15, 1 in 20 training sessions, probably. And if you're a better trainer than I am, probably even less often than that. I think that's about where I I'm at with Niffler is like 1 in 15 or 20. I go out and I'm like, shoot, we overshot a little bit.
I do that a lot.
Yeah. You and Taylor have similar tendencies as far as how you train.
Oh, well, if they can do this, surely they can do this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm excited to see like you both have progressed a ton in that, but you both have, I think, kind of similar tendencies in your progression, and in your excitement and your level of confidence in your dog. And
Taylor, if you watch this and you see me laughing, it's not about you. It's because I'm like, oh, I need to hear this again and again.
I mean, this is why we like the group coaching calls, is because I think sometimes it's helpful and easier to hear the advice being given to someone else. And sometimes it's easier to see someone else make the same mistake that you've already made and then internalize it than it is to watch it for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it makes us all feel not alone.
Yes, for sure.
Okay. Well, I have to run. Thank you all. I will make sure this is uploaded to YouTube, and I will drop the link to that whole playlist into Patreon again, so you all can go back and find July's. You can watch this morning's call, and we talked about your search from last month in this morning's call as something for Becca, I think, to go back to and watch again.
Okay.
And then Becca wasn't able to stick around for all of this call, which makes sense. You don't need to do 2.5 hours of this in one day.
Thanks for doing such a thorough, detailed discussion tonight. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I love doing this. It feels nice to have the time to have done 2 calls. All right. Well, I'm off to dinner. Enjoy your holidays. We will see you all in 2025.
Oh, wow.
Yay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thank
Lindsay, it was
you.
so good to have you. Thanks for joining.
Good to meet everybody. Thank you.
All right. Yeah. Bye, everyone.
Bye.